Hey everybody, Harry coming to you from the van. Dropped my daughter off at school, and it's that time of week that we're doing the our favorite films of the century, and we're on the decade of 1930 to 1939. And I'll try to be quicker this time and not make it drag out to 20 minutes. But I got my notes, typed them up the other day, and so let's jump into it. So 1930, I picked Hell's Angels, directed by James Whale and Howard Hughes, starring Ben Lyon, James Hall, and Jean Harlow. Probably the only name that you remember from that time from that film was Jean Harlow. It was originally filmed in 1928 as a silent film, but reshot by Hughes with sound and the Technicolor sequence. Excuse me. And just the thing of it, if you ever seen the movie The Aviator with Leonardo DiCaprio, directed by Martin Scorsese, the beginning of that film shows them Howard Hughes filming this movie, Hell's Angels. So it's a World War I film, pilot, about pilots, and big scene with the dirigible, or they call them blimps. So there's a scene in there, great scene, and actually 3 pilots died for making this film. So actually had died, and I think they mentioned that in The Aviator as well. Also for 1930, Men in Bill, directed by George W. Hill. I saw this last year, first time. Kind of went on a Wallace Beery kick. If you're not familiar, Wallace Beery was a film actor from the 1920s, from the silent era up until the 30s. He was the biggest paid actor in his time. And him and Marie Dressler did this movie. Marie Dressler is an actress who starred in silent movies and made her way into Hollywood films, or sound films, and she was one of the best highest paid women actresses of her day, and the most popular. She is not a Jean Harlow or Carole Lombard. She was an older woman, and kind of homely looking, to say the least. And anyway, she was one of the most popular actresses in the day, in the early 30s, late 20s. So, but Men in Bill, I watched this last year. Got it on Warner Archive. Also stars Dorothy Jordan. And Marie Dressler won Best Actress Oscar for her role as Min. She only lived a few years after this. She wound up having cancer and dying. She did a movie after this, a sort of like a sequel. Tugboat Annie was the name of the movie that she did with Wallace Beery, which is another good film. So if you look it up, Men in Bill, 1930, very funny. Look at the trailer up, or there's a clips and scene in it on YouTube. 1931, The Public Enemy, directed by William A. Wellman, starring James Cagney, Jean Harlow, Edward Woods, Joan Blondell, and Mae Clark. This is the film that made James Cagney a star. He's played in a few films before this. Excuse me. And but this is the one that propelled him and made him into a star. It was nominated for an Oscar for Best Writing, Original Story. And this is the film where Cagney shoves the grapefruit into Mae Clark's face. Famous scene in the film. So, The Public Enemy. Also for 1931, The Champ, directed by King Vidor. Starring Wallace Beery, Jackie Cooper, Irene Rich, and Edward Brophy. It's about a boxer who is an alcoholic and he fights, and he's taking care of his son to the best of his ability, even though he's drunk. Kid kind of runs around and does whatever he wants. And this is a tearjerker. This was remade back in the late 70s with Ricky Schroeder, if you, as a TV movie. If I remember correctly, it was a TV movie. It's a tearjerker. It's a good film. Wallace Beery won the Best Actor Oscar for his role as the champ. Actually, he was tied with Frederick March, who won for Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde for that same year. 1932, The Sign of the Cross, directed by Cecil B. DeMille, Frederick March, Claudette Colbert, Charles Lawton. Lawton, if I remember, he plays Emperor Nero, and then Frederick Douglass plays a Roman soldier who becomes torn between his love for Christian women and his loyalty for Emperor Nero. Close as you can get to pornography in this film. In the 30s, they had like a woman tied to a stake that was partially naked. I don't know how they got past the censors on that one, but anyways, that's Cecil B. DeMille always kind of pushed the envelope. I would say maybe he was the Tarantino of his time. Who knows? But anyways, it's a good film. I have it in a Cecil B. DeMille box set. It's The Sign of the Cross. Charles Lawton plays Emperor Nero. A very interesting character portrayal in that. Also, 1932, actually the year of my mother's birth. Grand Hotel, directed by Edmund Golden. Starring Greta Garbo, John Barrymore, Joan Crawford, Wallace Beery, and Lionel Barrymore. Won an Oscar for Best Picture that year. And it's just a bunch of different characters, which kind of set off a couple of films like that from the from that day, because this movie was so popular. When they had different different actors in the film that they live in this hotel, the Grand Hotel, and they come in contact with each other, but there's different stories to it. And as a matter of fact, Wallace Beery plays in this, and he kind of plays like a creepy sex offender type character. Not that he's a sex offender, but he's very creepy. Chasing down Greta Garbo and then Joan Crawford. Grand Hotel. Dinner at 8 came out after this, I believe, around the same time, which was another one where they had the big cast with top stars in it, and kind of had different plots going on in the film. 1933, Duck Soup, directed by Leo McCarey. The Marx Brothers, starring the Marx Brothers, Groucho, Chico, Harpo, and Zeppo. Zeppo's last film as the Marx Brothers. Also starring Margaret Dumont and Louis Calhern. Groucho's character name is Rufus T. Firefly in the film. And Groucho winds up becoming ruler over Fredonia, and total craziness, but it's well worth watching. Duck Soup from 1933. Also from 1933, I picked Design for Living, directed by Ernst Lubitsch, starring Frederick March, Gary Cooper, Miriam Hopkins. Pre-code film that was able to be released with no censorship, but the following year it was banned by the Board of Decency and had trouble being re-released because of the sexual content of the film. So basically, you got Miriam Hopkins and two artists, Gary Cooper and Frederick March. They live together, and they're in Paris, and they're struggling artists, and they meet up with Miriam Hopkins. They both fall in love with her, and they have a relationship where she's with one and then with the other. And anyways, you get the gist. Good film. It's on Criterion. I have the DVD of it. I don't have the Blu-ray, but the DVD is just as good as the, Criterion is just as good as the Blu-ray. So I'm happy to have that one. So look it up. All these films you could probably find on YouTube by at least the trailers or seen 4 of them. So if you're interested in seeing what they are, because I told you I'm total as shit trying to describe these films. 1934, big year for film. I'm surprised nobody had mentioned this one, but it's a Frank Capra directed film called It Happened One Night, starring Clark Gable, Claudette Colbert, Walter Connolly, Alan Hale. Won 5 Oscars for Best Picture, Best Actor for Clark Gable, Best Actress Claudette Colbert, Best Director Frank Capra, and Best Writing and Adaptation Robert Riskin. And Clark Gable is a drunk newspaperman. Claudette Colbert is a Colbert wants to marry a guy, a king, but I forget this character's name anyways. Anyway, she runs off. She doesn't want to marry this guy. Walter Connolly is her father. And then she runs away, and Clark Gable is a drunk reporter who finds her on the road, and they wind up traveling together. Very good film. A lot of famous scenes in it, like where they're hitchhiking, and she, Clark Gable's going to stump out. Nobody will stop. She puts her leg out, and the car stops, and winds up being Alan Hale. And eating carrots on the side of the road, and that's where they got the idea for Bugs Bunny eating carrots was from this movie. So It Happened One Night. Also 1934, 20th Century is the name of the film, directed by Howard Hawks, starring John Barrymore, Carole Lombard, Walter Connolly. It was one of the earliest screwball comedies that was made. Flamboyant Broadway impresario who has fallen on hard times tries to get his former lover, now a Hollywood diva, to return and resurrect his failing career. John Barrymore plays a ham in this movie. He was always considered a ham anyways as an actor, especially during the talkies, and this role fit him perfectly. He's drunk half of the time. Fun film if you can find it. I have it on DVD, but it's a great classic early Carole Lombard film called 20th Century. 1935, Captain Blood, directed by Michael Curtiz, starring Errol Flynn, Olivia de Havilland, Lionel Atwill, and Basil Rathbone. Nominated for 5 Oscars. First starring film for Errol Flynn. Captain Blood, pirate movie. Swashbuckler. 1935, Top Hat, directed by Mark Sandrich, starring Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers, Edward Everett Horton. Songs in that film you can find is Cheek to Cheek, Top Hat, White Tie and Tails, Isn't This a Lovely Day to Be Caught in the Rain. Typical Rogers Astaire movie, mistaken identity film. But it's great acting in it, great comedy. Edward Everett Horton is really good in these films. Funny as heck, very sarcastic. 1936, The Petrified Forest, directed by Archie Mayo, starring Leslie Howard, Betty Davis, Humphrey Bogart, and Dick Foran. And this is not the film that made Humphrey Bogart famous, but he got noticed. His portrayal of Duke Mantee in this film was inspired by John Dillinger, and Humphrey Bogart in his early performance was very good in this film. And you got to realize Humphrey Bogart, when he started out in the films in the 30s, he played in a ton of movies. Up the River, from like 1930-31 with Spencer Tracy, and even these films. And you've seen him in these films. He was a character actor. He wasn't a star. He didn't become a star until High Sierra came out. Casablanca is what really propelled him into being a star. So, it's a good film, The Petrified Forest. The only thing bad about this was that Leslie Howard and Betty Davis fall in love with each other in 5 minutes of the movie, it seems like. So, but anyway, it's great performances all around. So, check it out. Also from 1936, Libeled Lady, directed by Jack Conway, starring Jean Harlow, Spencer Tracy, William Powell, Myrna Loy. When a socialite sues a big paper for libel, the editor responsible calls for help. calls in the help of his ignored fiancée and a former employee to frame her and make a false story seem true. Funny film. I watched it not too long ago. Anything William Powell's in, I really love. I can watch him in anything. He always brings the movie up for me. 1937, because I think we're here at 16 minutes already. The Awful Truth, directed by Leo McCarey, starring Irene Dunn, Cary Grant, Ralph Bellamy, Alexander D'Arcy. Won 3 Oscars for Best Director, Best Film, and Best Actress in the Leading Role. That's on the Criterion. Also, 1937, Black Legion, directed by Archie Mayo, Humphrey Bogart, Dick Foran, Ann Sheridan. When a hard-working machinist loses a promotion to a Polish-born worker, he's seduced into joining the secretive Black Legion, which intimidates foreigners through violence. Very good film. Another early, well, I wouldn't say early, but another film by Humphrey Bogart that was really good. And like I said, this was before he became a star. 1938, Angels with Dirty Faces, directed by Michael Curtiz, starring James Cagney, Pat O'Brien, Humphrey Bogart, again, Ann Sheridan, The Dead End Kids. Nominated for 3 Oscars, Best Actor, Best Director, Best Writing, Original Story. Cagney lost out to Spencer Tracy for Best Actor for the movie Boys Town. Also, 1938, Jezebel, directed by William Wyler, starring Bette Davis, Henry Fonda, George Brent, Donald Crisp. Bette Davis won an Oscar for Best Actress in a Leading Role, and Faye Banner for Female Supporting Actress. This was before Scarlett O'Hara. Jezebel, you need to watch it. It's a good film, one of her best works. That's for you, Mike. 1939, Gunga Din, directed by George Stevens, starring Cary Grant, Victor McLaglen, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., based loosely on a poem by Rudyard Kipling. And then 1939, which there's so many great movies in it, and everybody said The Wizard of Oz, or somebody will say The Gone with the Wind. 2 guys already said The Wizard of Oz. So I picked Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, directed by Frank Capra, starring James Stewart, Jean Arthur, Claude Rains, Edward Arnold. Won 1 Oscar for Best Writing, Louis R. Foster. Had 10 nominations. Jimmy Stewart was beat out for Best Actor by Robert Donat for Goodbye, Mr. Chips. But Jimmy Stewart won the following year for the Philadelphia Story, which they said he should have won for Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. It was a tough year, 1939. Somebody had to win. Robert Donat won it, and James Stewart won the next year. Started kind of rushed, and I had to write down a little bit of the synopsis from a couple of them. But those are some of my favorite films from the 1930s. Tell me what you think about them. Have you seen them? Films that you might want to watch? I think Black Legion would be one of them. The Awful Truth. All of them are good to watch. Men in Bill, if you get it, it's funny. Early Hollywood, 1930 early sound films, man, they're the best. They're learning. They're learning. They're in the process of learning stuff. So, and how to do it, and it's great to watch these early sound films, and then and how they progressed. By 1939, they had Technicolor movies, big 4-hour movies, The Wizard of Oz, the special effects, all within a short period of time. Anyways, thank you for watching. See you next week, 1940 to 1949, for World War II years. Bye.